think about you as a person. Like, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't talk to people a lot anymore, right? Like I really don't like picking up the phone and talking to someone when I can accomplish it through, a text message or something that's a little bit less with less barrier, right? My time is valuable, just like your time is valuable. So if somebody is taking the time out of their day to make a phone call versus you chasing them, that says a lot about the intent, right?
If you want to drive and if you want to be successful, welcome to VIPAs, the game plan call.
Honor is ours. Honor is ours for sure. I know you guys have been making very great strides on the CallX platform, and we greatly appreciate you for being the proponent of that for our organization. I think that there's no better way to sort of express our appreciation than to sort of have you sort of shed some light on the platform as a whole, give your insight and things like that. So for those of you who are not familiar with the CallX platform, Brian Carozzi is the founder of it. He is an expert in pay-per-call marketing, and has decided to partner with our agency last year, if I'm not mistaken. CallX is an inbound leads platform, and I mean, I'm kind of just. I think you do a better job of sort of explaining the intricacies of it. I don't want to sort of make it look smaller than it really is, but it's a huge thing. So, what can people expect? Like, just you want to talk a little bit about like what CallX is, and then the first question I really have is more so, what kind of inefficiencies in the current lead ecosystem did you see that made you say, "Hey, I need to build CallX"?
Yeah, yeah, good question. So, where we're at right now, and just I know that some people are not very technical on this call, and so just to keep it very simple, we are a performance-based marketing company, right? And so what we do is we drive inbound calls directly to an advertiser. And that's what we've done for the last 12 years. I've been in performance marketing for 25 years now, but in terms of pay-per-call, I've been doing it, probably about 12 years now. And what we saw, so performance marketing as a business has been around for forever, right? You had traditional DRTV, you had classified ads back in the old school days where it's just a ad put in a newspaper and said, hey, call this number for X. So performance marketing, specifically pay per call, or they called it cost per inquiry back then, has been around for decades. But really about 12, 13 years ago, when mobile marketing started to become even more prevalent, right? So the traffic, consumer traffic started going from, predominantly from the PC, from the desktop, and started moving over to mobile. And a lot of that had to do with the iPhone, right? And having a computer in your pocket at all times and being able to access the internet on the go. So you started to see this shift from desktop to mobile. And mobile marketing, as it was, kind of in its early days, it's still really focused on different types of performance-based media, such as cost per click, or cost per acquisition, or cost per app download. But really what we wanted to get into, especially since I was doing a lot in the insurance space, was just cost per call, right? So, and it was called pay per call. So pay per call really started about 12, 13 years ago as it relates to like online marketing, maybe a couple of years even before that. But really it was the shift from user behavior, right? Shifting user behavior, going from the desktop to to mobile device, and realizing that people are walking around with a mobile device for 12, 13, 14 hours a day. And what's the easiest thing to do with a phone in your pocket? Make a phone call, right? And so there's all these businesses out there that have call centers, these major insurance companies like direct carriers, especially we did a lot in the P&C space, so working with Liberty Mutual, Progressive, Allstate, those types of companies where they just have these large, massive call centers, and they wanted calls. And so what we decided to do was to figure out a way where we can charge them on a just a performance basis. And so we go out, we do all the marketing, right? A consumer makes a call, and then the advertiser will pay for that call. So once that call, we do the marketing that generates that call goes to their call center, and there is like a buffer in place, right? So once that call lasts X number of seconds, we call that a commissionable event, and we charge the advertiser for that. So that's what we do, and just it's very straightforward. But we do all the media buying, and we're going across a bunch of different formats of media, right? We're doing native ads, we're doing video, we're doing search. And at the end of the day, those calls are being driven to an advertiser, and those advertisers are paying on a performance basis. So that's what we're doing right now. That's what we've been doing. But since partnering up with you guys on the life insurance side, we've taken on a new approach. So it used to be that we take in an advertiser, like I'm just going to use Allstate, for example, right? So Allstate comes to us and they say, hey, Brian, we want calls delivered to our call center, and that's going to be $40 a call. Okay, cool. So we'll go out, we'll do all the marketing, we drive those calls directly to Allstate. Allstate will then have their agents field those calls and close policies and whatnot. But they have a call center. They have a centralized location, right? And so our business has always really worked well for companies that are in the call center space, that have the call center infrastructure. And so when we started working with you guys, right, we realized, hey, this is great. You guys want the calls, but you don't really have the platform in place to get the calls to the agents. Agents are all over the United States, right? Like when we first started working with you guys, we had a couple people that were out traveling in Europe, and they wanted to generate sales. They didn't want just their, just because they were traveling and they were on vacation, they didn't want that to limit them in their ability to generate income while they were away, right? And so we said, okay, well, why don't we try to build a platform that connects to our call routing platform, but gives agents the ability to log in from anywhere in the United States, anywhere in the world, and take calls on demand. And that's where we're at right now. And so if you're not familiar with CallX, the way it typically works is an agent will log in, they put on their headset, they hit a little button that says toggles on, and they're eligible to receive calls right then and there. And then what we'll do is we'll just send calls directly into the agent. The agent will field those calls, close the calls, and it's very simple, very straightforward. But what it's doing is it allows the average agent to be able to close. I mean, God, I forget what Jessica's number was last week, but I think she had a plus $20,000 week in 1 week of business, right? So you're not taking data leads and dialing for dollars. You're just on the phone, and you're getting inbound high intent calls. So that's what we built thus far. But where we're going is we're trying to build this in a much more intelligent manner, right? So that we can turn this into a true sales platform for life insurance agents to make it smarter, right? So that's what we're doing, and we're going to be implementing a lot of AI and things like that into the platform. But at the end of the day, our goal is simple. Our goal is to help agents generate more revenue, right? More revenue means that they can help more people get coverage and protection, which is super important for us, right? They're able to help protect their families, right? Which is important for us. They're able to make more money for their families, right? Like everything points back to helping people. Period. That's it, right? And our core philosophy, one of my core principles is people first, right? Always.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of you know my dad's story, coming down with the ALS and why CallX and really getting into life insurance has been so important for me. But one of his sayings forever was family first, always,
Mm.
right? Family first. And not I know family first and how we, got involved with you guys, but it was always about family first. And as we started, going down the path of building out this business, we took it a step further, which is just people first, right? It's people first. It's the people that we're protecting. It's the people that are helping protect those people, right? Everybody need to come first. But at the end of the day, when you can align people to a
Mm-hmm.
mission,
Mm-hmm.
right? It just becomes powerful. It
Yeah,
becomes
absolutely.
really powerful. So, what we're trying to do is start with the platform that enables this ecosystem to really take off. But what's core to me, and I know core to some of you out there, is prioritizing people. This is a mission driven business,
Indeed.
right? It's a mission driven business. And
Mm-hmm.
with me, and after my dad died, my purpose changed, right? And so my purpose became my mission.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing here with CallX. It's the beginning of something that is much bigger.
There you go.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So
I'll say too, yeah, like, first of all, God rest your father's soul.
thank
Um,
you.
know, I can imagine that to be, easy in any regard, but I'm sure that, him looking at you, seeing what you've been able to create based off of that circumstance happening is, I mean, there'd be no words to even describe that, right? What I will say is this, and what it seems like I think everyone else can sort of attest to this, is that this platform as a whole is rooted in a great deal of impact, right? It is rooted in impact, right? Honestly, I think a big contributing factor to that too is you live in the Bay too, right? Or you
I
live
do.
in,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So as you already know, and I'm a new sort of resident to the Bay. A big thing I'd say, coming here, sort of takeaway, maybe you can attest to this as well, is folks out here, the reason as to why most of the largest tech companies in the world are built out of Silicon Valley is not because folks out here are focused on like, the income aspect, right, or the revenue aspect. They're focused on the impact aspect, right? They're focused on the users, right? When you see like a lot of like, you don't see all the flashy stuff out here. You don't see too much of that. You see a lot of quiet money. People are like, really focus on who they're competing against amongst who's going to bring the most impact to society as a whole. And I say this all the time, care, respect, and understanding, those three things are impossible to teach. It's like you either have it or you don't have it. And I mean, there's no doubt in my mind as to, why this platform has been as successful as it's been up to now because of that, right? Um, Now, you said that obviously, you were in you were in like the telemarketing, like over like TVs with different sort of industries before this, and then you obviously transitioned into the insurance space. So my question now is this more like on a technical side for agents as a whole.
Mhm.
What do you think would like shock most agents about the way inbound leads convert compared to traditional like outbound dialing that most agents are used to?
Yeah. I think just the response rates, right? I mean, when you look at consumer initiated calls, it's someone that is, and I don't know how much you guys know about marketing, right? But you have everything in marketing is a funnel, right? And so you have your if you look at a funnel like this, like a reverse, pyramid, you have your top of your funnel, which are people that really don't know anything about your product at all, right? Then you have the people that are in the middle of the funnel, they might be aware of the product or whatnot, but they still require marketing
Mhm.
to and convincing to be able to kind of move them over the edge. With the bottom of the funnel, like that bottom part, right? Those are the people that they're aware of the problem, they know that they need the product, and so the intent is really high. And
Mhm.
so think about you as a person. Like, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't talk to people a lot anymore, right? Like I really don't like picking up the phone and talking to someone when I can accomplish it through, a text message or something that's a little bit less with less barrier, right? My time is valuable, just like your time is valuable. So if somebody is taking the time out of their day to make a phone call versus you chasing them, that says a lot about the intent, right? And not all calls are going to be good calls, right? And so I want to set that clear. But the level of intent of someone calling you versus you calling them, it's amazing, right? In terms of the value that you can get from a caller that has already made the decision to pick up that phone and call an agent and stay on the phone with that agent for 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes, right? This is so I think with consumer initiated inbound calls, your volume is obviously going to be lower, but the quality of conversations that you're going to have is going to be greater.
Okay. Okay. So that's a strategic advantage.
Yeah.
That's the okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
And it's all about, at the end of the day, from an agent's perspective, it's optimizing your day, right? How do you want to structure your day? Do you want to spend 8 hours on a dialer dialing for dollars? Some people everybody needs to start somewhere, right? There are many hours in the day to be productive. If you don't have access to inbound leads, there's other ways that you can generate revenue. I'll give you guys a funny story and just to kind of date myself a little bit. But when I was 17 years old, I started. I was a stockbroker. Became stockbroker at 18, but I started in the firm at 17, and we had annuities and a database of people that had annuities, right? And our goal was to take these annuities that had expired, and I guess they were in something called moratorium, and we had to flip them over into a new product. And I was a new guy, I was a young guy, and what do you think they gave me? Think they gave me the Glengarry, Glen Ross leads? No, they gave me the shit, right? And so I ended up getting leads where I had a name and I had a lot of times disconnected phone numbers, but there was also another number there. There was a fax number. That's how old this was, right? There was a fax number. So what I did is I created a like a little one-sheeter, and I explained to the customer what was happening. Like, hey, you need to take action now, and if you don't, then this is going to happen. If you do, then this can potentially happen. And I friggin' faxed it, right? I sent these people faxes, mass faxes, and it generated, tens of thousands of dollars. So my point is that if you can get creative, or if you're hungry enough, and if you have the desire, there's always ways that you can generate revenue and make money. But as I got older, the one thing that we all know, your biggest limitation in life is your time constraints, right? There's only so many hours in the day. So how do I structure my day for optimal success, right? As a sales agent, I think that inbound calls are the easiest way and probably the best way to optimize your day. Now, that doesn't mean that needs to be, everything that you do. But if you have, if you're on a dialer, if you're on the CallX system for, let's just say, 4 to 6 hours a day, and you know that, hey, that's going to be good for, $5,000 to $6,000 a day in AP, possibly. And then I can add a couple of other hours a day to, housekeeping type issues, following up with, my pendings, following up with prospective customers. Then to me, that's the most efficient use of my time, right?
No doubt.
So that answer your question?
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, and you know what it really brings is organization, right? Like there's so much, a lot of times, when you see newer agents coming into the business is like, they'll get the CRM or they'll get on a platform like so they'll have like a lead strategy in place, but they leave a lot of juice, like a lot of food on the table, right? When it
Sure.
comes to not being able to follow up, not having their CRM organized in smart lists, right? Not being able to sort of, like you said, optimize your day, or going back to what you did, right? You learned at a very young age the importance of organization, where everyone else around you was following a different route, right? You decided to make a spreadsheet. You took that spreadsheet, used those numbers, and used it to your advantage, right? But it all came down to organization. So optimizing the time is so critical. I mean, you said it yourself, right? Like maybe you take on one shift a day, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the shift is from 7 a.m. like PST to 2 p.m. or what are the shifts?
I think it's like 12 or
Oh,
something like that.
okay, okay. This is like 4 hour shifts throughout the day. This in that time, in that very short period of time, one can amass a great deal of income for themselves and revenue for their organization as a whole. So, no, I mean that's number one. I mean, I would say that's probably one of the biggest sort of proponents of the platform. Excuse me, my apologies. Now I want to ask this. So how does like CallX ensure that like speed to lead is not just like a metric, right? Like what's the strategic advantage here? Like I know we talked about organization. I know we talked about it's inbound. Is there anything else in terms of like strategic advantages that one could sort of expect when getting onto this platform compared to like other lead sources as a whole?
Yeah. So why don't you walk me through like what your typical agent is going through on a daily basis with other lead sources, and then I'll kind of shift to how CallX is different.
So I would say this, let's just take, a new lead source. An agent is used to calling, let's just call it aged MP, and then they're transitioning or coming into the business, they want to learn how to call aged MP, right?
Mhm.
Aged mortgage protection. So they come into the business, it takes what, 90 days for them to learn it. On average, I'd say 30 to 60, honestly. Um, Best case scenario, they do have a CRM. Worst case scenario, they have to go and purchase those leads through our database, through like a lead database, wait for those leads to come in. And then while they're waiting, sort of listening to other people and things like that. And then as soon as the leads come in, that's when they decide to start calling them, right? So either if they have the CRM, great. We just have a power dialer now, so they can input them in there. There's costs associated with that as well, right? With them having to input it into the CRM. Or they use the caveman approach, which is what a lot of folks are used to, which is what I was brought in the business for, which is just using your cell phone, right? You just click the numbers and you wait for them to answer the phone, and you do it all over again couple hundred times before you're able to close them. And then you just do that over time, and somehow you're able to amass a great deal of revenue for yourself. So that's pretty
Yeah.
much in a nutshell what it looks
Yeah.
like on a daily basis for most agents.
Yeah. I think as a marketer, I always tend to look at you know the marketing sources and the marketing tactics, as well as what type of ads are out there that are driving that conversation, right? Because we all know that not all calls are created equal, not all conversations are created equal. You take in a data lead, and you're dialing out on this data lead. You get a hold of them, and the person's like, "I've never heard of you. I don't know what you're talking about." Blah blah blah. That happens all the time, right? And so when you really look at what we do on our end in terms of controlling the messaging that's being put out into the marketplace, that helps dramatically with the quality of the conversations that you're generating. And also go back to what we talked about, which is this reverse pyramid, right? And marketing. You know, how many times have you been on Facebook and you see something and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool, that's interesting. You're not really sold on it, but you're like, that's really interesting. I'll inquire about it, right? And so you get these data leads sometimes that aren't really vetted, where the consumer just thought that they were, thought that what you have to say was interesting. And I know final expense, right? I don't know mortgage protection or anything like that, but um, final expense has been thought of, and people believe that it's a one call close. But when you start to think about it, right? This is a product that can cost someone, you know, $500 to $1,000 a year, right? It's a big ticket item. It's something that requires a good degree of thought to put into it. I know, at least I know for me,
Mhm.
um, I'd spend some time doing, thinking about that type of purchase because to me, that is a somewhat of a big ticket item. It's important. It's important for me. It's important for my family. And I have to understand the ramifications of, if I am on a fixed income, if I'm a senior on a fixed income and I'm now allocating $100 a month to this, I probably need to take away from something else. Right.
Mhm.
And so what I'm saying is that I think that there, even though we're all, we can control the marketing messaging, I think that uh, there's still a lot of people that are inquiring that are considered at the top of the funnel and need selling, right? They need to be sold, uh, not just day one, but it requires consistent follow up. Um, so, yeah, I
No
mean,
doubt.
but marketing messaging is huge, right? There's a lot of fraud in the space. There's a lot of and that's always been the biggest thing, right? So
Yes. Yes.
it's huge. And I ran a company. I don't know if I kind of might have talked about it before, but I ran a company that was a publicly traded company that was in lead generation. God, a long time ago. Let's leave it at that. And we had affiliates that were generating traffic and leads on behalf of our company, but they were
Mhm.
going out and they were using false claims like, "Hey, this product was seen on Dr. Oz or was seen on Oprah Winfrey," and it wasn't, right? But we, as a business, failed to be able to police the affiliates, and
Mhm.
so having that experience and seeing, just meteoric kind of like rise and fall, when we created CallX, it was all about preserving the integrity of the messaging that's out there,
Okay.
right? And the we can control the messaging. We can't control how people necessarily interpret that messaging, right? And so that's your job as an agent to really, do your due diligence, make sure that they know what the product is about. They know that that there is a cost to it, right? Like especially in final expense, there's a lot of marketers out there that are talking about free benefits, right? And
Mhm.
that's one of the very common tactics that people use in Facebook is free benefits, and then agents get pissed off, right? Because like this person thought it was free. Like, no, it's not free. But at the end of the day, you've already purchased a bunch of leads, and so you're not going to get that, be able to recoup that money. So preserving the integrity of the message from the beginning to the end is super important, right?
Absolutely.
And it's super important to also have agents that are aligned with that messaging, right?
Absolutely.
So because at the end of the day, what we do or what I want to do is my belief is that, again, people first, right? So whether it's the messaging or the agent, both need to play their role in putting people first in the
Yeah.
equation, right?
Absolutely. And
But
the
yeah, I mean,
returns.
I just quality of conversations, man. Honestly, right? I mean, you could spend your day dialing Facebook leads, and yes, there's going to be some you know some juice that you get out of that, but is it worth the squeeze? And
Yeah.
that's what I look at,
Mhm.
right? Because there's a time cost to everything. There's an opportunity cost to everything.
Yep. No doubt.
So, right?
No, that's the truth. So I know you touched on this, right? You kind of touched on, the quality of the lead, right? And what most of your competitors, the sort of tactics that they use, which somewhat even sort of call unethical in some regard. So what, I mean, obviously everyone talks, there's a lot of other competitors out there, right? We know this.
Yep.
Everyone nowadays has the next best lead. You go on social media, I mean, open up Instagram right now. Everyone has some sort of either a program to sell you how to teach you how to do it when they really don't know how to do it. They just bought a course somewhere else, right? or they have like some revolutionary sort of lead source that is going to do something amazing when in actual reality it's most of the time just data scraping or something like that. So my question to you is this: what is one or two more like core differentiators that set CallX apart from the industry disrupt like as a is it as an industry disruptor?
Yeah, I
What
mean,
sets them apart?
internal media and technology, right? I think that as the technology evolves, we get much smarter in terms of understanding keywords, ad placements, ad copy, image creatives that are
Mhm.
actually generating the real revenue, right? I mean, one of the things that we do with CallX, which a lot of other companies don't do, is ingest the AP data, right? How much was actually written off of this lead source, or how much revenue came in as a result of this keyword or this this banner or this advertorial. So being able to tie all of that data together is really one of the secrets, right?
Mhm.
And because you get full attribution
Mhm.
from the moment that you're buying, from you buying media
Mhm.
to what that output actually looks like, right? Like being able to assign a true ROAS, return on ad spend. Like I spent $1, I made five,
Mhm.
right? 500. So like what's your ROAS? And a lot of companies, I think, depending on what you're looking at, right? You're especially as an agency, there's so many agencies that are out there that are like, hey, I'm going to buy $30 calls and that's what I'm going to buy all day long. Whereas
Mhm.
with me, I'm like, no, you're going to get $70 calls.
Mhm.
And then the question becomes, well, why are your calls so much better? Right? Why? And it really comes down to, again, full funnel attribution and us really focusing on your core metrics. If I'm just a lead generator and I can, sell a call for $50 and make and generate that for $30, right? I can keep a $20 spread. But if you aren't getting the value as an advertiser, you guys are going to be gone. It might
Mhm.
take you, a month to figure it out, but I'm going to burn that relationship, right? So my focus is on making you successful. Again, people first, right?
Mhm.
This is very, very different than
Mhm.
what most companies try to do. Most companies try to maximize profit and
Yep.
look for the opportunities. But at the end of the day, what ends up happening is there's thousands of insurance agents out there,
Yep.
thousands of insurance agents out there. And if I'm a lead generator, I can go to you, I can go to, 1,000 other guys. And if you say, you know what, let's just say I sell you leads and you spend $1,000 and you're like, they didn't work. Cool, no problem. I'm going to the next guy because I don't care about your success. And that's what happens in this space way too often. And I'm just not talking about pay per call. I'm not talking about, my business or, just marketing in general. There are people and companies that just do it better. And a
Yep.
lot of times they don't do it better because there's any magic, secret sauce. It's just that they care. Their
Yep.
priorities,
Yep.
right? And so with CallX, we've prioritized our technology and are leveraging our relationships to get the data into the system that we need in order to help us buy smarter, buy better, and at the end of the day, help you make more money
Absolutely.
and
Yep.
help more people. Right?
Absolutely. Number one.
So
Yep. Yeah, it's also rooted in experience too, right? Like I think just your level of experience set yourself so apart from most people, most of these young cats who are getting into like, the ad space as a whole, right? Like, they'll learn it maybe in like 90 days and then think they can put together a course and then just sell it to the open market. Whereas like someone like yourself who has had years of experience in the industry and honestly founded yourself within the space, you can obviously just speak it, understand it at a much higher level. Honestly, I compare that more so like the relative success of our overall organization as a whole, right? In comparison to some of the other agencies out there as well, right? Whereas like, most of these other agency owners, not to take a hit on other people, but it's just the bare truth. Like these folks come into the insurance space thinking that, insurance, like building an agency is just sales. It's just sales. No, 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 no. It is the understanding of business, the key principles of business, chain management. So like you can't teach that. You just have to have that kind of experience, right? And Samir, Harold, like, these cats have had experiences in numerous different industries before even coming here. I know Harold most of the time has been in the insurance space, but has obviously, explored other opportunities and things like that to leverage his income. Um, but I mean that's just the bare truth. I think your experience just sets yourself apart from everybody else in the space as a whole, which is why we're seeing the kind of success we're seeing.
Yeah, the funny thing is that the people that tend to do, I mean, and there are some really, young guys out there that are doing really well, right?
Mhm.
But what they're really good at, they're good at selling themselves, right?
Yes, that's the truth. Yeah, I'll give them.
They're good
Yeah,
at selling themselves.
yeah,
Myself, I've never been really like
yeah,
cared about selling myself or posting on Instagram and things like that. But the market is changing, right? It's selling yourself, selling your brand is very important.
yeah.
Uh, but at the end of the day, a lot of these guys are much better at selling themselves than
And sign the actual product. That's the thing.
right than selling an actual service or selling
Yeah.
the knowledge behind why they do what they do. Like you said, anybody can take a course that's good at selling themselves, wrap
Yeah.
this course up in their own terms, right? This basically like you take this course, go to ChatGPT, like, hey, rewrite this course, and they use what they're good at, which is selling themselves, to then sell you.
Mhm.
But there's always going to be these foundational blocks that are being taught by other people that are passing on the knowledge from just pure experience in the space,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No doubt. In a different way, right? So that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
true. We can give that to them. We'll give that to them. Not a market.
It's fine. It's fine. I mean, uh, the the good news is that I mean this agency is a phenomenal agency. You guys are a lot more ahead of other agencies from a technology perspective. Definitely a little bit more cutting edge. Still, as a whole, individual, the brokerages are still probably like 3 years behind the times when it comes to when I'm talking about like comparing you guys to like an eHealth or Go Health or these companies that have really built these solid infrastructures and have learned to scale pretty aggressively, running 1,000-person teams, like the select quotes of the world. Still, so even though still might be like a couple years behind, you're catching up dramatically fast, right?
Mhm.
And this is where there's a lot of room for growth. And so making sure that you are uh, aligning yourselves with the right agency is so important, more so now than ever before. Because right now you can't fucking make mistakes. You have to
Yeah.
move fast, and you have to learn, and you have to continue to push forward. Otherwise, technology will leave you behind,
Yeah.
right?
That's the
So
truth. You got to keep up with the Joneses. That's the truth. So, like, talking from the agency's perspective, right?
yeah.
How does like CallX serve high volume teams differently than like solo agents? And like, what kind of scalability, guardrails have you built in that regard?
Yeah, I won't. So I won't work with individual agents. It's just not.
Mhm.
That's not something that I will do. The reason why is because um, many companies have done it. I don't. The reason why is because to an agent, $500 is a
Yeah.
lot of money. To
Yeah.
an agency, $500 is not a lot of money,
Yeah.
right? And in order to buy effectively, we need to go out there and spend a lot of money because at the end of the day, we make decisions based on data.
Hmm.
And if I'm, fielding complaints from an agent that, spent $100 and like, hey, that lead didn't convert. Well, fuck yourself. Go, talk to somebody else. I'm not going to be dealing with your complaints because agencies don't complain,
No.
right? They complain when there's, they've spent $10,000 and things aren't going correctly. And then
Hmm.
we have the data to back it up and say, okay, yeah, you're right. Something dipped about 1.2%, right? These are small things. But in the grand scheme of things, these become bigger problems if they're not addressed. But I would much rather have the communication with an agency with tens of agents versus wasting my time with one agent. And I'm not saying wasting my time, it's opportunity cost. We already talked about time management and where you can maximize the hours in the day, right? Am I better served dealing with Ayaan's problems versus Illuminate's problems? It's a very different type of conversation. So I won't work with individual agents, and by working with agencies, we get the buying power that we need to be able to buy very effectively in the market.
Absolutely.
So
And in turn, that it gives right back into the business as a whole. So, one thing, we're almost done here, but just to wrap it up a little bit, when you look at the future of insurance sales, like where do you see AI and inbound systems like CallX playing a dominant role?
yeah, I think and we're already playing around with this, right? It's a little expensive right now, but everything that you will see in sales, right? You have your top agents, you have your bottom agents, and you have kind of everybody in between. And being able to understand what sets these top agents apart from these bottom agents, sometimes you just can't put your finger on it, right? Maybe it's like tonality. Maybe it's something like you have an agent that interrupts the customer or talks over them, but you can't really put your finger on it at scale because it requires you to listen into thousands and thousands of conversations. And now we're at the point with AI where you can listen into the conversation in real time. You can learn from those top 20% of your agents, right? And you can provide real-time rebuttals to those bottom agents to help them level up their game, right? That's the goal. Again, people first. Everything that we do is people first. If we can if we can help these bottom agents become better agents, help them, perform, what does that mean? That means we get more people protected.
Yep, no
There's
doubt.
more coverage out there, and that's the goal, right?
Absolutely.
So AI is going to make our job so much easier, but we also need to have agents that believe in the mission to put people first.
Yep.
Right.
No doubt.
And that's where culture becomes a really, really big dynamic of the agency. And that's what I love most about you guys, right? Is that you have a phenomenal culture. And I believe that you will execute on the mission. And CallX is just a tool to get you there, right?
Absolutely. That's the truth. And honestly, what exactly would you say is like your goal, like for our agency? You spend a great deal of time with us. Like, what would you say by the end of this year? Like, what would you say is like the 1 year goal, and then 5 years from now, where do you see us? And if like every agent at VIPA, ran their business through CallX, what kind of revenue difference would we realistically see in like 90 days?
Yeah, I mean, I think our short-term goal is to be doing $1 million a month in AP through CallX, right? I think that we're getting there, pretty close, but that's just going to be more agents on the system, better marketing tactics, and trying to move towards acquiring new pockets of media, right? Because we want to bring down the cost of media. We also want to bring on more agents, and the guys have done a great job, Camilla, Jacori, Zach, in terms of helping onboard agents, train agents, giving them the support that they need in order to be successful on this program. So it's $1 million a month short term. I think that, we've got to the point where we've had a month where we've submitted over 750, maybe more. And it's going to be $1 million. And then by the end of the year, I'd like to be doing 2 million a month.
Mm-hmm.
And right. I think that that's very realistic. We get the right agents on board, and agents that can commit to working, a specific amount of hours. And that's what's different about this program, to be quite honest, is that you have to be there when the calls are there, right? It doesn't make sense to, go fuck off doing something else when calls are coming right now. Like, hop on the phone, take calls when they're available.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can be disciplined enough to show up when the calls are there, and you can get on, granted that, Corey can add you to the schedule, it's going to be game changing for you guys, right? But it's persistence. And the other thing that I'd say is just that, again, backwards pyramid, top of the funnel. There are a lot of fucking customers out there that need help. They need help. And calling someone and having a really good conversation and then not following up with them, that only doesn't, do a service to you, but that hurts the customer.
Yep, that's true.
Right. We heard that. We all saw that thing that Brian White had posted about, this person didn't, go through with getting coverage, and a week later they died of a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Those types of stories should be ingrained in your mind when you before you get off the phone with a customer.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Always. So I think short term, $1 million, near term, 2 million a month. And I think that's very accomplishable within the next 6 to 7 months.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm with you. I'm with you in that regard. People first, though, right? Because what does that do? When we produce more, that allows us to have the bandwidth to be able to bring on more agents and give back to our organization as a whole, which is
That's
huge.
right. That's right.
I also want to kind of touch on this too, because I think a lot of people are going to get super interested from wanting to get on the platform. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, there are sort of requirements to be able to get on CallX. This is not for the faint of heart by any means necessary. You got to have some sort of a level of experience before getting into the platform. Samir Harold, if I'm not mistaken, what I would suggest is that you reach out to a manager, sort of consult and have that conversation to see if you even qualify to be able to get on the platform, because it is very high paced. Yes, you are going to see a great deal of progress, a great deal of revenue for your books of business. But with that being said, it does not only come with a price, but it also comes with a little bit of experience as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Carozzi.
No, you're spot on. You're spot on.
Okay.
Yeah, and the one thing that is interesting, guys, and I don't know if anybody else can substantiate or back me up there, but with this program, it's funny because a lot of the newer agents have had more success than the senior agents, right? And so, with proper training, and again, the guys have done a phenomenal job with their training. It's very doable for a new agent to be successful on this program, right? But you have to have the work ethic, and you have to have the mindset that people are first, right?
Absolutely.
Because otherwise, what's going to end up happening is that you're gonna piss off a customer, and that's going to somehow make its way back to the marketing, right? There's been cases in the past where the person that is fielding that end call, if they leave a bad taste in the customer's mouth, and the marketing source finds out about it, it can ruin your business, right? So we just want to make sure that everybody is aligned on what the mission is. But yeah, newer agents can have just as much success, if not more, than a senior agent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we'll conclude this call with the people first for sure. Everybody drop one in the chat. Everyone drop people first in the chat. That's the theme, I think, of this entire conversation. Just wrapping it up.
It's the theme of where I think that we should go as a business, right? Yeah. I think that, people, if you keep that as your mission. And then whenever you have, get a question being asked to you, like, hey, what should we do in this scenario? Bring it back to people first. And then it becomes a very simple conversation, right? It's a very simple thing to make decisions when you're doing it for the right reasons.
Absolutely. Lead with care. We
That's
lead
right.
with care. That's the
That's
truth.
right.
But I think that pretty much wraps up everything, Mr. Carrozzi. I do appreciate you greatly for your time today. I kind of want to open it up for questions from the organization if time permits for you. Um, but anything else you wanted to conclude with, sir? Or can we go ahead and start asking some
I'm all good.
questions?
You guys are great.